Ever since players met him at the very early days of the game going by the name of Scaramouche, the Wanderer has been the center of many players' attention. More than a year and one tumultuous character arc later, the long-awaited former Harbinger is finally playable, with an extremely fascinating kit to boot. This video helps illustrate how his kit works and what it can bring to your account, so you can decide whether he is the right pull for you. Wanderer is an animal hypercarry who uses his normal and charge attacks in a windborne state granted to him by his skill to deal a majority of the team's damage. This is a simple and effective role that has existed since the early stages of the game, and has helped many players achieve their clears. However, the Wanderer brings with him some unique mechanics that deserve discussion. Being an animal unit also lets him act effectively with other roles. He also performs well as an on-field DPS who can effectively drive off-field units, or even act as a reaction carry with electrocharged. Before we dive deeper into his kit, please note this video is simply meant to serve as a reliable source of information from a Theorycrafting perspective as to what the Wanderer can provide to teams, should you choose to roll him. If you want the Balladeer for his interesting design, excellent voice acting, or brusque character, we do not discourage you from wishing for him. Instead, we are simply trying to provide you with a full explanation of his kit so you can make an informed decision based on how he fits with your roster, as well as guide you into building him to maximize his damage. Further, everything in this video is subject to change with future releases and discoveries. As mentioned earlier, the Wanderer is an animo carry, and his normal and charge attacks serve as the source for much of his damage. When using them, the Wanderer fires ranged wind blades that automatically target enemies, something reminiscent of Magu Kenki's own wind blades. These have a good auto-targeting and allow the Wanderer to deal damage to enemies from considerable range. Further, as a catalyst user, the Wanderer can make full use of attack speed to make his normal attacks even more fluid, as well as being able to use more of them during his skill's uptime. Generally, the Wanderer prefers N2C combo, that is, using two normal attacks followed by a charge attack. Alternatively, players can choose to use consecutive charge attacks. While this is lower damage and does not trigger effects that activate on normal attacks like Xingqiu's rain swords, it is nonetheless a good option that is much easier to execute. He can also use two normal attacks followed by a dash if he is able to activate his Ascension passive, which will be covered soon, though without a shielder this dash is best saved for dodging purposes. The Wanderer's skill is the most unique part of his kit. Upon use, it causes him to enter the wind favor state, which has two main effects. The first is that it grants him the ability to float for a short period of time. The amount of time he can float depends on his unique stamina bar he gains in this state, which consumes Kuguryuko points, which consistently depletes. This provides him unique maneuverability, however, care should be taken as dashing and jumping in this state will deplete the bar quicker. This makes dashing or jumping during his DPS uptime a significant DPS loss if not making use of his Ascension 4 passive. The second effect is it provides a multiplicative boost to his normal attack talent as much like Yoimiya, greatly increasing his damage potential and encouraging players to play around the uptime of his elemental skill. It is worth noting that it does not give him any interruption resistance. While the Wanderer can avoid many attacks mid-air, attacks that do hit are prone to interrupt his offensive combos. Wanderer's Burst is a simple but powerful damaging tool, dealing 5 instances of animo damage. However, players should be aware that using his burst in the wind favor state will terminate the latter's effects. Therefore, his burst should be used either at the start of his DPS uptime or near the end, depending on his gear and team. Generally, he will use it earlier in order to snapshot his teammates' buff into his burst. However, if buff uptime is not an issue, he can choose to near the end of the skill in order to make full use of his Ascension 1 passive. If using Shimenawa's Reminiscence, Wanderer will tend to almost always use his burst near the end of his uptime when possible, as using it before will cause his energy to deplete, causing the set's 4-piece effect to not activate. The Wanderer's Ascension 1 passive gives him buffs when he's casting his elemental skill based on the element it comes into contact with during his initial cast. This coming into contact aspect is similar to how the game determines absorption on other animal units such as Kazuha. He can have a maximum of 2 different buffs at the same time, with Pyro providing attack percentage, Hydra giving him additional Kugoryoku points, Electro offering him an energy refund, and Cryo offering crit rate. The buffs for various elements are relatively equal in their strength, and while a nice bonus, are generally not worth specifically chasing for. The Wanderer's Ascension 4 passive gives him a chance to enter the Descent state when hitting enemies with normal and charge attacks while in his wind favor state. This chance increases for every normal attack that does not put him into Descent state, similar to how the royal weapons work. When in the Descent state, the Wanderer's dashes will not consume his alternative stamina and will unleash 4 bolts that deal damage to the enemy. This passive is valuable for allowing him to dash during his wind favor state, as doing so otherwise is a significant DPS loss. That said, its RNG activation makes it feel difficult to account for. Wanderer's stat priorities fall back in line with traditional carries, preferring attack percentage, animal damage bonus, and critical on his artifacts. Generally, the Wanderer prefers to burst every other rotation, which leaves him with minimal ER requirements. If not using Faruzan, it is recommended to just run a little ER and burst every other rotation. If players choose to use him as a reaction carry in electrocharged teams, players can instead exclusively focus on building him for elemental mastery. In terms of artifact set, Wanderer's options are relatively simple. 4-piece Desert Pavilion Chronicle is tailor-made for him, and is almost always his best set and usually quite a significant margin. The 4-piece Shimenawa's Reminiscence is a close second when bursting every other rotation or not bursting at all. However, bursting every rotation with the set is not feasible, and trying to do so makes the set considerably worse. Finally, 2-piece combinations of Desert Pavilion's Chronicles, Shimenawa Reminiscence, Viridus Invenerer, and Gladiator's Finale can be considered. They are considerably worse than the above sets, however, can be worthwhile with good substats. There are a few other 4-piece artifact sets that can occasionally see use in very niche situations. That said, it is worth noting that they will generally be worse than Desert Pavilion Chronicle. The 4-piece Viridus Invenerer is particularly noteworthy to can see use if alongside strong off-field DPS with no other available holders on the team, or if building full elemental mastery. However, as Wanderer is often paired with Faruzan, this situation does not commonly arise. 4-piece Lava Walker and 4-piece Blizzard Strayer also serve as an interesting options if full uptime can be maintained on their 4-piece set bonuses, albeit not enough to compete with the signature artifact. To little surprise, Wanderer's best weapon is the signature, Tule Tilad's Remembrance, as the weapon stats and passive are essentially tailored for him. However, it is not better by a significant margin compared to his other options. Wanderer's other weapon preferences will generally depend on whether he is running Bennett on his teams or not. With Bennett, Lost Prayer of the Sacred Winds and Kagura's Verities are his next 2 best options. Without him, they are superseded by Memory of Dust and Skyward Atlas. For his 4-star options, the Wit Sith and Solar Pearl are his best choices. Wit Sith have the higher average damage, albeit with higher highs and lower lows. Solar Pearl is significantly more consistent. A special mention has to go to Dodoko Tails. If using a specialized combo involving only charge attack spam with occasional normal attacks to refresh his buffs, it is one of his best options. Without this, however, it tends to fall off. Finally, Blackcliff Agate, Frostfair, and Refined Mapamare serve as his best free-to-play options. Blackcliff Agate is always the best, but requires players to spend Star Glitter, with Frostbearer being his next option if not using Bennett, and Refined Mapamare wins out if utilizing it. As the Wanderer generally serves as the biggest source of his team's damage, most of Wanderer's teams are focused around buffing his damage or contributing good off-field damage, as well as a teammate that provides defensive utility. It is worth noting that in a vacuum, the Wanderer prefers shielding to healing due to his tendency to be interrupted. However, the choice will generally come down to the specific unit in question to be used. Farazan is the most important teammate for the Wanderer, even with no constellations, as her kit is almost tailored to supporting him. While she is still a strong teammate even at C0, she truly comes to her own at C6, which significantly improves her buffing and removes her kit's clunkiness. Any player lucky to have a C6 Farazan is highly recommended to never remove her from any of the Wanderer's teams where he is the focus. Bennett is also a noteworthy option, as he condenses buffing and healing, with his attack buff also being able to see use with teammates who snapshot with their abilities. Further, his prior self-application makes it particularly easy to activate Wanderer's Essential 1 buffs. While he is not strictly necessary, he is such a strong option that if he is free, he is highly recommended. The last noteworthy buffing option for Wanderers is Yunjin. While her buff is not as potent as Farazan, and she does not possess Bennett's Roll Compression, she is still a strong option as much of Wanderer's damage comes from his normal attacks, and he further benefits from her C6 giving attack speed. If using her, using N3 combos can be considered. However, she also tends to fall off in area effect. Further, her energy requirements can be staggeringly high without a second Geo unit, something that can be difficult to fit. For defensive options, Wanderer has a wide variety of options even outside of aforementioned Bennett. Zhongli provides an almost impenetrable shield as well as a respectable 20% animal resistance shred. Layla and Diona are also noteworthy cryo shielders. Layla's shield is stronger and she can make good use of Tenacity of the Militus set, whereas Diona trades these benefits for healing. Kokomi can provide potent healing and has the ability to provide Wanderer buffs through her ability to hold Tenacity of the Millilith and Thrilling Tales of Dragon Slayers. Finally, while Jean is unimpressive at C0, her value as a healer increases dramatically with Constellations. C2 provides Wanderer's attack speed, and C4 offers an additional 40% animal resistance shred. There are also a wide array of off-field damage dealers that a Wanderer can make use of. Yelan and Xingxiu are strong Hydra options, with Yelan providing a potent ramping buff and Xingxiu offering damage reduction and interruption resistance. They can also be used very well together. For Cryo, Ganyu and Rosario perform well as off-field DPSs. Fischl and Yai are good Electro options. Fischl in particular can shine due to her ability to snapshot buffs and Wanderer being able to activate her C6 consistently. Beidou can be used if paired with Fischl to assuage her energy needs. Xiangling can also be considered on Wanderer teams if used alongside with Bennett, as her burst remains on the ground and thus being able to hit enemies. However, even with Bennett, her energy recharge cost will be staggeringly high. Finally, players can consider using Venti or Kazuha with attack animal damage crit builds, as they provide additional grouping utility and can benefit well from Farazan's buffs. For players who do not enjoy Wanderer's hypercarry type teams, running him as a driver for units such as Yelan, Xingxiu, and with Varus and Venerer is also a strong and viable option. It is worth noting that Wanderer can also be run similar to Sucrose and Hazo in Electrocharge teams, using Viridus and Venerer, building elemental mastery and being paired alongside units such as Xingxiu, Fischl, and Beidou to capitalize off reaction damage. This will not be covered extensively in this video as he's generally outdone in this role. Still, it can be considered to those who enjoy his gameplay and want some variety as he still performs well. The Wanderer's constellations are generally strong. That said, they are relatively unspectacular for the 5-star constellations. His first constellation provides him with additional attack speed and a bonus to his A4 damage. While this is not a huge damage increase, it offers a good quality of life improvement to his gameplay. His second constellations give his burst a strong damage boost when used at the end of his skill, offering a reasonable DPS boost and additional nuking power at the cost of needing to backload his burst. Wanderer's fourth constellation offers him an additional absorption buff. While potentially valuable, this is usually wasted as absorbing 3 different elements can provide difficult. The additional levels on his skill give very minimal returns, giving his C5 rather poor value. His C6 is strong and is by far his best constellation, albeit still falling behind some other top tier constellations. The secondary normal attack it triggers when normal attacking on its own is a significant DPS gain. And the additional duration in his windboard state it provides gives additional quality of life use. The Wonder offers a unique gameplay experience with a tried and true team archetype as a hypercarry, while also being able to perform effectively as a driver unit. This means that people who are pulling him will generally be well rewarded for their effort. That said, he often needs very specific teammates with high constellations on them to truly compete with the upper echelon of teams. This means that his apparent flexibility can be somewhat deceptive for those seeking to maximize their damage. The unique advantages offered to him by his range and floating mechanics can also be somewhat said to be counterbalanced by his proneness to being staggered, being advantageous in some situations and disadvantageous in others. Overall, it is very difficult to say the Wonder provides an unmatchable advantage to people's accounts that he is a must-pull. However, those choosing to roll for him will not be disappointed by what he provides. Thank you kindly for watching Kaching Main's Theorycrafting staff's thoughts on the Wanderer, and what we think you should know before you wish for him. If you think we missed anything, or have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below where we will do our best to answer. Also, be sure to check out our Wanderer quick guide linked in the descriptions if you are looking for an easy to reference written source for the details in this video.